So this bit is for those of you born after the year 2000. The save icon that you'll recognise is actually a storage device known as a floppy disk. They were used for saving files and transferring them from one computer to another, a bit like a USB memory stick today. The high density 3.5-inch floppy had a standard capacity of 1.44 megabytes, and believe it or not, there were a few digital cameras in the late 1990s that opted for these floppy disks over compact flash. Cameras such as this Sony Mavica FD88. If you're using a 64GB SD card in your DSLR or mirrorless camera today, that will be the equivalent of more than 45,000 floppy disks. I've got 10, and I took these with me on a well-deserved holiday to Rhodes with Vanessa and Mike and Rachel. .44 megabytes wouldn't even fit one RAW file on a more modern camera, but luckily the Sony Mavica only shoots JPEG, and it only has a 1.3 megapixel sensor. Each floppy disk can hold about half a dozen photos, so I had to be a bit economical. As evening came, we were back on dry land, and I thought it would be an opportune time to shoot the same scene with both my Sony Alpha and the Sony Mavica. And I think it's fair to say Sony cameras have improved in the last 20 years or so. The following morning, I was ready to make the most of golden hour, and I started snapping my way around the streets of Faliraki. And just like that, I had filled up an entire floppy disk. I was curious to try one feature on the Mavica that was unusual on still cameras of the 1990s: video. So in case you're wondering, this is what the video quality is like on this camera. Now, because of the limited capacity on the floppy disk, I can't actually get much footage before I run out of memory. I was on my third floppy disk, having only taken 6 pictures and a 13-second video clip that was more pixelated than a Japanese porn film. I was wondering why on earth would anyone want to buy one of these cameras? But Mike had a very different question on his mind. So with all that smushy business taken care of, we hired some quad bikes and went to Lindos. The tour guide said you could do Lindos in just a couple of hours, but I would have happily spent days there. Whereas Faliraki was very much catered to the tourist, Lindos felt like the real deal. The history, the architecture, it was right up my street. It's the only place where people in shops greeted us in Greek instead of English or German. After waving goodbye to the Acropolis, we headed to Seven Springs. Oh, there's fish.
What are you doing that? Wait.
Why are you doing it? Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's getting deep.
A little sexy lady.
Is this where you got out Me too. Okay. Ah,
Just getting out to dry his shoes.
This is annoying.
We couldn't come to Rhodes without visiting the city of Rhodes, which had a lot to offer. But as it turns out, we were a couple of millennia late to see Rhodes' most famous monument. But that hasn't stopped the tourism industry merchandising the courses of Rhodes, as if it was a genuine tourist attraction that people can actually visit. I was quite harsh earlier when I said I can't see why anyone would want to buy this camera. You've got to remember in the 1990s most people would have still been using film. You could get 36 pictures on a roll of 35mm film, whereas this you can only fit about 6 pictures on a floppy disk. But as an amateur camera, it's not that bad. Of course, it has the main advantage of being a digital camera that you can see your pictures straight after you take it. Compact flash at the time was very expensive. Everybody had floppy disks, so I can actually kind of see the appeal. Anyway, thanks for watching. Here are a few more pictures from Faliraki.